One of the most important pillars of effective storytelling is having strong characters. You could write the best narrative ever told, but without the characters to match, everything will fall flat. Conversely, you need more than just a couple. It's all well and good having a brilliant protagonist and a three-dimensional antagonist, but it's difficult to construct a strong narrative with just two good characters. Tales of Berseria understands this, and in this video I'm going to tell you how and why, as well as my further thoughts on the game. With that in mind, join me as we explore Tales of Berseria, the importance of a great supporting cast. Before we dive into the deep end of the supporting cast, I need to go through the two most important characters in our journey. Spoilers for, I guess, the first 2 to 3 hours of the game, so skip to the time on screen now if you don't want the first 2 hours spoiled for you. Firstly, who are these people? You play as Velvet. You live a normal life with your younger brother Laphicet and brother-in-law Arthur, following your sister's death. All is well, then bang, one day Arthur sacrifices Laphicet and kills him. Oh no, why has he done this? Why has he betrayed you in this way? You don't know, and neither does Velvet, who turns into a demon, and the stage for the rest of the game is set. Exact revenge and kill Lord Artorius. Now, what is Velvet's role in the story? Not only is she obviously the protagonist, she's also the pillar. In terms of your party of 6, Velvet is the least exciting one. She's cold, unbothered, selfish and determined. Those character traits usually don't help create an interesting protagonist, and her character doesn't really develop much until the final 10 hours of the game. But she has to be this way in order for the rest of your party to bounce off each other in the way that they do. They all have connections to Velvet in some way, whether it's repaying a debt like Rokuro or using her to complete their own goals like Aizen. Without Velvet, the other characters wouldn't shine as much as they do, and the game wouldn't be anywhere near as enjoyable as it is. Then there's Artorius. He's the villain of the story, but the game does a monumentally brilliant job of ensuring you understand why he does the things that he does. You don't have to agree with his choices, but you can understand the reasoning, and that's how you know you're dealing with a well-structured villain. I won't go into too much detail because I promise to only spoil the first 2 to 3 hours, but the pair create the perfect balance between will versus reason that filters into the other characters as well. The theme of identity is constantly present as well, and the importance of finding your place in the world is relayed to you and the characters as the story progresses. Do birds fly because they want to, or because they must? Off the top of my head, I can only really think of Persona 5 that has a supporting cast that comes close to this from any other game. The other 5 party members that you have are all so well rounded, so fleshed out, so in tune with their characteristics that any of them realistically could have been the main character of this story. They all have a backstory, they all have a reason for being in this group, much like Velvet's. Honestly, I would play a game, hell, I would even play this exact game where any of them are the main character, especially Eleanor. You could very easily imagine this game from her perspective, and I very much would have loved to have done that. Especially the opening 10 hours or so. I think that would have made a brilliant DLC. I don't want to go into specifics about each one because, spoilers, much of this game's charm comes from slowly developing relationships with these characters, and learning more about them as you do so, and I don't want to rob you of that if you haven't yet played it. It obviously helps that the writing is top notch as well. The banter they all have with one another in cutscenes and the graphic novel style dialogue that appears when you press triangle made me smile very often. The occasions where the fighting stops and the darkness fades and a glimpse of light is able to shine through were some of my favourite moments in this game, such as the fishing section about 20 hours in, which isn't a spoiler as you have no context whatsoever as to what I mean by that. It's a dark game, for sure, but the characters that join Viv on a voyage make the journey a joy to explore. You feel free to have fun in this world despite the bleakness. They're completely different games, so don't pay too much attention to this comparison. But The Last of Us Part 2 consists of a very bleak narrative as well, and the game is very dark. However, every single character in Last of Us 2 is bad. Not bad as in a villain, but bad as in they aren't fun to spend time with. Everyone is sad and selfish and mean all of the time, whereas in Tales of Berseria, everyone is jovial and selfish, though it's clear as the hours pile up that they all grow to love each other and enjoy each other's company more, as much as Magilu may wish to object to this. There's also characters such as Lady Theresa and Oscar, which I haven't even got around to yet, who have their own story arc, which, while self-contained to a certain degree, still has implications on the greater story, with it being essential to Velvet's development as a character. I haven't even mentioned characters such as Kamawana and Benwick. The game is overflowing with fantastic characters. In some senses, it's just plain greedy. Why not talk about the actual game for a little bit, just to round things off? The combat is really cool, and I was surprised to see how customizable it is. You get to choose what abilities you want your combos to be, and I can definitely see how huge Tales fans could have a lot of fun with this, as the combat is really as good as you choose it to be. This is because button mashing is hilariously effective. Seriously, on normal difficulty you can button mash your way through the game with few obstacles and minimal grinding. In some clips I'm button mashing, in others I'm not, and you probably can't tell the difference. I don't know, I can't. Fortunately, the game does reward you for exploring. Items can be found on the ground or in chests scattered throughout almost every nook and cranny, which is good as the areas themselves aren't that pretty to look at. There are some exceptions of course. The snowy area near the end of the game for one looks beautiful. One aspect I didn't like was how much backtracking there is. You'll visit each area at least 2 to 3 times throughout the main quest, even more so for some areas, and it isn't really needed. This game is 40 hours long. It didn't need the extra padding. With that said, it just means even more time to spend with these characters, so I'm not complaining too much. There's also a few puzzles which I don't like very much, because I'm an idiot. But they shouldn't give you too much trouble unless you're like me and got stuck in the water temple for a lot longer than I should have. The soundtrack is also pretty good. It's not going to make any best soundtracks ever lists by any means, but it consistently sets the correct tone needed and deserves props for being able to do so. Overall, Tales of Berseria is a game that is elevated massively by a strong cast of characters. Characters with realistic motivations. Characters with direct mirrors from the opposition. Characters with flaws. Characters that develop. Characters that bounce off each other, and above all else, characters that are simply enjoyable to be around and spend time with, which carry the emotional story on its back, whilst also providing us with moments of tranquility and humour when needed most. And that is why Tales of Berseria shows us the importance of a great supporting cast. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, then please consider leaving a like, as it would be greatly appreciated. And if you want to see more content from me, then make sure to subscribe, as I upload videos just like this one every single Friday. Have a nice day, and goodbye.